Welcome to Dare a New Belief, a place to discover what is possible for your life after the loss of a loved one, and where you will find inspiration, insight, support, and love, and hopefully a bit of laughter to help you through your day. Now, here's your host, Nada Hogan.
Welcome to Dare a New Belief, where you will find light and life, love and joy, healing, faith, and hope. A place where you get to believe in what is possible for your life. And today I have the great honor to have Terese Castellanos with me for today's call. Terese holds a master's degree in social work from Loyola University in Chicago. She has 20 years experience working with adults, adolescents, couples, and families. She specializes in anxiety, depression, trauma, grief, and loss, relationship issues, and major life transitions. Terese believes that through therapy, unresolved issues can be addressed so as to gain freedom from shame, guilt, anxiety, and depression, and work toward healthier ways of living that allow for a more meaningful and authentic life. Terese has a private practice and also works as an addictions therapist, critical incident response consultant, and mental health consultant. She is also a certified Reiki practitioner. And Terese, I am so grateful for your courage and your time to be with us today, because I know you are going through a very difficult time. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me and for giving me an opportunity to share my story. I hope that, even though it's my story, I know that it's many other people's story as well.
Exactly. Yes. So Terese, you had shared with me that today your mother is coming to live with you, and she is transitioning into hospice care.
That's correct.
Yeah. So can you tell us, just so for other people who have been in the same position as you, just how are you navigating that? Because all of this is happening right now, and here you're on a call with me. And how is it that you can find the strength to be able to do that and navigate this?
Oh, that's a really good question. I've been asking myself that same question. I guess, part of it is resiliency. I didn't become a therapist because I grew up in, with the rainbows and sunshine and a white picket fence. And so I have had opportunities to build resiliency over my lifetime. But I think part of why I am able to do this with my mom is that I lost my husband 10 years ago to brain cancer, and I was his caretaker. We were together 18 years, and 11 of those years were with cancer. And so I think that definitely helps me now in being the caretaker for my mom.
Absolutely. So, and it's always, to me, just amazing how life seems to help us and prepare us for other times in our life that can be as difficult and maybe even more difficult. So as you said, you became a therapist because you didn't have the white picket fence and rainbows and all of that. Can you share with us that the difficult, your childhood and growing up? Can you share that with us?
Sure. Well, the program is not long enough. But I will share the part of my story that is relevant to my mom, and it's relevant in what I want to talk about today. So, I'm one of 5 children. Well, one of 6. I lost a brother before I was born. He died as a toddler of pneumonia. And, I guess that's kind of where part of my mom's story began, because my mom's, just like all of us, we have our own childhoods and the way that we were brought up, and all of those things affect how we then parent. But my mother, I can't imagine. My mother's first major loss was her third child, my brother, who died in her arms in the emergency room because they said she had to wait her turn. And he was 1.5 years old. And you can imagine the desperation of her pleading for someone to help her because my brother had already gone, limp in her arms, and he had pneumonia, and she was told that she had other people before her. And he passed away in her arms in the hospital emergency room.
Oh my gosh.
And this was right before he was the brother before me, and I was born 2 years after that. So the other major loss that my family, but again, as a mother, is that I lost my brother, who also had a brain tumor, like my husband. About 3 to 4 years ago, he had a brain tumor, and he had some brain damage as a result of the surgery. And he was only in his 50s, and he had symptoms very much like Alzheimer's, where he lost his memory because of where the tumor was in his brain. And he got up to try to cook in the middle of the night, and he unfortunately started a fire, and he perished in the fire as well. My niece and my nephews were able to get out of the house, but my nephew could not save my brother, and he perished, and that was another tremendous loss for my mom. So again, we all have a story, and my mom has hers, but how it impacted me and my relationship with my mom is that, being the only, her first daughter, I have a younger brother and sister, my mom really wanted a girl. And when she had me, she was very protective of me. And unfortunately, given the job that she was doing, where she was working in a factory and the hours were, at night, and my father worked in a steel mill, and his hours were, very, similar. I have 2 older brothers, and but they don't drive. Neither one of them ever got their license. And it was too difficult to be on the bus with me at, 1 a.m. That is not a safe and conducive thing to do with a baby. And so my mom made the decision to leave me with my grandmother, who had me since I was a baby until the age of 15. My grandmother in my heart was my mom. My mom was more like an aunt, that I would see on the weekends with my dad. They divorced eventually. My mom came to live with my grandparents, but I was already older. And I didn't understand as a child why I wouldn't live with my parents and my 2 older brothers. As a child, I understand this as a therapist, that, children think that they make things happen. And so as a child, I remember feeling very lonely, very unloved, and just very confused, kind of wondered what about me was not good enough that I could live with my family. Although my grandmother provided me with so much love and just tremendous amount of love and self-esteem and nurturing, that I'm just very lucky that I had my grandmother. When I was 15, the only reason I stopped living with my grandmother is our house burned, and I had to then live with my mom, and there began a very difficult relationship with my mom.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. My heart just goes out to you. So you had this difficult relationship with your mother and trying to understand, and as a small child, now as a teenager, but I would imagine that there's some kind of resentment, or that questioning becomes more than just questioning, and all of the feelings that come with, like, why am I left out, and what did I do wrong, and why did I have to stay with my grandparents, even though I know you loved your grandmother so much. How did that relationship, when it was just you and your mother, then how did that relationship um, blossom? I mean, was there healing that was starting to take place in there, or did it just get more difficult?
It got more difficult. I mean, imagine a 15-year-old who, living with my grandparents. My grandfather in particular was really stern. He was very difficult. I mean, in terms of, like, he was really strict. I wasn't. He didn't believe that girls should interact with boys.
Mm,
And so he had a very different idea of me as a child, and just thought I was, rebellious, when I was just a typical normal little girl.
yeah.
Um, so when I lived with my mom, imagine the immense sadness and longing I had to be with my grandmother, who ended up living with my aunt. It was, again, and this is all kind of as an adult looking back, but I longed to be with my grandmother, who was my mom in my heart. And um, so being angry, not being able to express that as a 15-year-old, not being able to say, you know, that I wanted to be with her and not with my mom, because, you're supposed to want to be with your mom. But also having these new rules, or, you know, pseudo rules that my mom wanted to place on me. Oftentimes I would say to her, "Oh, now you want to be my mom?
Right.
Now you want to be my mom? Where were you for the first 15 years?" And so definitely I would say things like that to her. I would say, "No, you can't tell me what to do. Only grandma has that right. Grandma can tell me what to do."
Yeah.
And so, to get at an age where I can know at least what I'm feeling and express it in a way that I had never been able to as a child. And so, um, I think it hurt my mom a little bit, but at the same time, my mom loved my grandmother, and she never resented the fact that I had that relationship with my grandmother. And for that, I'm grateful that
Yeah.
my mom never felt like she was competing with my grandmother, that she understood how much I loved her, and she was very grateful for that. And that has come around full circle, which, I will talk about with you.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's just, you just don't even know the pain that people go through when you just look at a person. You just have no idea the stories and the pain that they carry with them. Oh my goodness. Because as a little kid, and loving your grandmother but wanting to be with your mom, and then when you're 15, you're with your mom, and loving your mom but still having those feelings
Right.
but wanting to be with your grandmother. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, oh my gosh. I mean, it's wow. Wow. Oh, so now your mother is, so you became a therapist because of I don't want to say a tough life, but it was, you had a lot to deal with. I just can't even imagine. You had a lot. You had a lot, and it grew you in so many ways. And now you're with your mother, who's come to live with you today,
Yeah.
and and with Alzheimer's, or dementia. And
Right.
so, like, how are you navigating this now, Terese? How is this landing?
You know, I I never I've had many clients who have come to see me for very similar reasons. Their, stories might be something like,